In this video, we're going to take a look at the Sailor 1911 Large. Let's start at the end with my thoughts on this pen. Here is a perfect example of curiosity killed the cat. I really like the size and feel of the 1911 Large to write with. And I was interested in trying odd nibs, and I went and got a hold of a zoom nib. Now, all of my difficulties in writing with this nib are entirely my fault, and of no fault to Sailor. Nothing should go there. The nib is not meant for the Western writer, and I can understand why. In order for me to even really be able to use this, I have to hold the pen very upright. So largely what I'm going to be talking about here is the nib, because I do have a 1911 Large review somewhere else on the channel. Now, in writing with it, I find a great deal of mental pains to go through while I'm writing. I have to ensure that I hold the pen in a very specific way, or my writing becomes very difficult to read. And I do work at being able to write with this, but to be honest, I can't dedicate a ton of time to writing with a nib that's only on one pen and that I'm probably not going to get any more of. Now that we know how I feel about the Sailor 1911 Large, let's see how I got to that opinion, starting with the unboxing. The Sailor 1911 Large came in a box like this, which contained a box like this. When you purchase a Sailor pen, it is the full deal. You get to have a very nice experience from the point of even opening the box. And I do appreciate that because it's the finishing details about a pen, like the box, that lets you know that they took care in all of the other aspects of making that pen. With the pen out of the box, we need to get to the nib, and as long as it doesn't take 20 turns to uncap, I'm generally okay. So how many turns does it take to uncap? The Sailor 1911 Large takes 1 and just over 1.5 turns to uncap. It is under the 2 turns that I feel to be very excessive when uncapping a pen. I don't really have a problem with it. It's just more of a preference. If we could take a 1/4 turn away from this, it would be in the perfect sweet spot. This gets us to the nib. This pen has a gold zoom nib on it. The pictures showed the highlight of why I got this pen, the zoom nib. Now, I would be very willing to swap this nib out if I had a spare, because I really do enjoy using the pen. The nib is very interesting, and from what I understand, a zoom nib is the perfect nib to get an architect grind out of. If you enjoy videos like this, then be sure to hit the subscribe button. Now, let's ink this pen up. The Sailor 1911 Large is a proprietary cartridge or converter system that holds approximately 0.8 milliliters of ink. The ink for today is Lamy Rhodonite. Thank you, Sailor, for having proprietary converters. I've never had a problem with their converters. I find they work very smooth. I haven't had to replace one of them. Now, I do hear people complain about them, but I think the complaints about them are old complaints. I think this is something that has been fixed and never talked about the fact that it's better. And I'm interested if you have issues with your Sailor converters. As a habit, I don't normally post my pens, but some people like to post pens, and some pens need to be posted to use comfortably. This pen can post, and unlike their ringless, the bands can give you a little bit of security if you're worrying about having to crack that cap. It fits nice in the hand. I like the girth of this pen. It's thick enough to not be any kind of a problem. So for me, if I choose to use it unposted, which I normally do, then it's not a problem and I can continue forward holding the cap. But if you wanted to post it, you can, and it's not going to be any kind of a problem. It is good and secure, and it's a nice size. Now, the important part, the writing sample. As I said, the whole thing I'm really going to be talking about here is the nib itself, because the pen is very comfortable in the hand. It's not anything that anybody should be worried about. You do pay quite a bit more for the large version over the standard version. Now, this nib, if you have it lower to the page, gives such an unusually wide. Now, I don't mind using broad nibs, and I actually do have an Architect nib, and I write with that perfectly fine. This nib, for some reason, I have a tremendous amount of difficulty writing, and the only way I can write with it in a legible fashion is to be very upright. What that really means for me is by the bottom of this full page of writing, my hand is going to be fatigued because this is a non-natural writing position for me. To clarify again, this is not a problem with Sailor or their nib. It feels very nice on the page. The flow of the ink is absolutely perfect. It's a me as a Westerner writing in Western writing, Roman letters. It's a problem, and I don't know that it's worth going after if you're. I mean, if you really want to experimenting with nibs, I did. I don't remember hearing at the time I got this warnings about how difficult it can be to use as a Westerner. Now, I'm sure if I wrote in kanji that this nib would be perfect because it does vary in line weight quite a bit as you change its angle to the page. I'm just not practiced in being able to do that. Now for something a bit more standard in comparing writing size. I use Namiki Blue to do this. Now here it is with a Yovo Extra Fine on the left, medium in the middle, and a 1.1 stub on the right. We can see in the writing that this is a very broad writer of a pen, and the biggest thing to have to pay some attention to is how varied its writing width can be depending on that angle, and these comparisons have a difficult time truly showing it entirely. So how does it compare in writing size to other nibs I've used? Looking at the writing of a Sailor 1911 large with a zoom nib. Here it is next to a Platinum 3776 with a music nib, a Pen BBS 456 with a Goulet 1.5 stub, a Lamy Safari with a 1.5 stub, and a Pelican M205 with a double broad nib. So it isn't a review without some size comparisons. Here it is capped. Here it is uncapped. And here it is posted. This being called a large is a little deceptive. This is a very average size Western pen, so I wouldn't go into it thinking you're looking at an oversized pen. It's something to be considered. This is a very average sized pen, and it is a little girthier as you head towards the nib on the body, which makes it very comfortable in your hand. Just be aware. At this point, we need to clean out the pen just because it's dirty. Be sure to check out the next pen review where we take a look at the Levenger TrueWriter.
Do you need a way to get that last bit of ink out of your bottle and into your pen? Well, have I got a solution for you. A blunt tip syringe. That's right, not only can you get the ink out of the bottle, but if you leave enough of them around the house, you can look like you have a problem. For the low price of $19.95, get yours today.
If you want to be able to support not just my channel, but any reviewer, then when you make a purchase, be sure to tell that retailer where you heard about it. Thanks for watching.